What's going on, guys? Clone Force 23 here. You got your boy Alec. I'm joined by Alex and a new guest to the channel. Cody, how's it going, man?
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Alex, say hello to
Pretty
the
good.
people.
How's it going, people? Happy to have you here, Cody.
Yeah, happy to be here.
We got a special guest, Cody. We've got the two-time Take the Initiative League champion, Store Showdown victor, and now on his resume, he's got a day two invite to Vegas, baby.
Yeah, skipping day one.
Skipping
Yeah.
day one. Yeah. So we're going to talk about the Chaska, Minnesota Planetary Qualifier, which Cody was able to take down and win. Feel free to like and subscribe. It greatly helps us out. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments section. But let's get into it here. So there was a 87 player Planetary Qualifier here in Minnesota last weekend. And what deck did you choose to run with?
I was on Han Yellow,
On
which
yellow.
is, yeah, kind of what I've been playing for the last month and a half or so.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
So,
figure that's,
most of your set three run has been in Han.
yeah, I was playing Quinlan Tarkentown early on, and then kind of switched to Han because I thought it was pretty underplayed for the power level that it was at. So, kind of that's what I had the most reps on going into this, and figured I'd just send it.
Yeah. Well, it worked.
Don't deny
It
that.
worked out well. Good
Yeah.
intuition. Yeah, it's especially with this after week one, where just everyone switched to it.
Yep.
I didn't
It did
see
start.
too many in
No,
total there that day.
I know Joey was on it,
No.
and I saw one other guy, and so that was three. There might have been like one or two more, but there wasn't a lot. And I know not very many people around here really play Han 1, the double yellow Han 1. And I wasn't sure, because it really only started like gaining more traction after that first weekend of PQs. So this was the third
Yeah.
weekend. And I wasn't sure how many people would switch to it, just within that week. And that was my biggest thing is I'm like, I just don't want to be playing the mirror match every day.
Yeah.
Because that's just the worst. But yeah, but I was like, well, I'm not gonna switch decks, so just hope that no one else does, and
Right.
go from there.
Yeah,
Out.
it's a skillful deck for sure. So obviously, big shout outs for taking it through 7 rounds of Swiss and
Just
then
a
three
lot
more
of
tough-
decision points, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah, a lot more thinking, I would say, probably than any other deck in the game right now. So it's
right.
definitely, I think, a factor why so many people just don't play it.
Mhm.
And so it's really, even though like the surge of it where it's being represented more, it's
Mhm.
still like you can't just pick this deck up overnight and
No,
learn
I
it,
think I think the biggest thing, I do think people overhype how like hard it is to play, because I think every deck has its own like intricacies and the different like niche parts of the deck that you have to figure out. The thing, like, every matchup is kind of a different, like, you approach it in a different way, which is I think the biggest thing. But like, I think if you know what you're doing and can catch on quick enough, like, I'm not gonna like I think if you're like, people will sit here and be like, oh, you need to play 400 games with it. It's like, I don't, like, you don't need to do that. Like,
yeah,
you can pick it up, and once you figure out your game plan into each of the like the popular meta decks, and you kind of have your like know your role in each matchup down, like you can do well with it.
right. Yeah, that's good to hear. Especially, I think I think there is a good group of people that are kind of intimidated by it for sure.
Oh
Just
yeah,
'cause
for
of
sure, for sure.
that kind of like what it's known for. It's like, oh, it's a
Mhm.
super hard deck to pilot. You got to know these things. Oh, you just play Tech DJ. That's what you do, right?
Right. Yo, I
Yeah.
don't I don't even know if I got that off any of the games. Like, the amount of times you get that like turn 3 tech DJ off is doesn't happen very much.
Yeah, like the blatantly like advertised
Right,
Wamacom.
the
Like,
the early
I'm gonna
one,
play. Yeah, play tech on turn 2 and like
Right.
pump on turn 3 for some reason. I don't know why.
Yep. Nothing to see
Yeah.
here.
You're right. Yeah, don't leave tech alone. He's not doing anything.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Why don't we run through your matchups if you have that?
Yeah.
How everything went for you on the day. I think obviously a pretty impressive run, but we can
Yeah.
go
So
through here.
the first match I got paired up against, I don't know if you guys know Eric Gunderson. He's a local guy, and he's pretty good, and he's on CAD Tarkentown, which is like not a great matchup for Hans. So I'm like, oh,
Sure.
like I know he was top 8 at the last PQ in Chaska here, so I was like, I'm like, all right, great. It's not gonna be an easy start to the day. So I ended up getting there in 2. Our first game was very close. Um, like I had like Hond pretty aggressively, like so much to where I went to like, rather than going to 6 resources, I just kept my 2 cards and stayed at 5.
Okay.
Like ran out of cards. He ended up with a Zuckus out there.
Oof.
Trying to remember. He had a Zuckus, a Cad Bane, and a Punishing One. And all I had was the Big Falcon, the 5/5 in space.
Yep.
And I remember thinking, I'm like, okay, like if he just surprise strikes at my Falcon, I'm dead. Like, and I think I had a blaster in the row too. So I drew my 2 cards for the round, and I drew a Bodhi and a Spark. So I fired off the Bodhi, and he had Bazine, surprise strike.
Oof.
And and I know like he's at 20, so I'm like, he's so close. So I take one of the surprise strikes there, and now I'm like, okay, I'm like, if he just surprise strikes at my Falcon with the Punishing One and kills my Bodhi, I'm like, it's just over. But then I think he ended up blastering Zuckus to base, and I hit him with the Spark and got his other surprise strike, and was able to just barely win the next turn because now he was
Nice.
a little short of lethal, and he drew his 2. I'm like, you get the surprise strike to kill my ship, and he didn't. So got there barely. Game 2 was a lot less close. I think his like second turn play was Waylay,
Oof.
which isn't really where you want to be with CAD.
No.
And he ended up passing it to me. I just claimed. I was like, okay. I'm like, I'm fine with us not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I Kira'd him turn 3 and named Jabba. So then he had to waylay my Kira. So then we were going into the Han turn with like the board pretty much clear. And yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you love to see that.
Yeah, I think I DJ'd him, and then like Envy's nested him the next round.
Oh.
And, yeah, it was pretty solid. So that was round
Tough.
1. Yeah, it was a rough game 2. But so I was feeling pretty good going into game 2, and that one then I get paired up against Obi-Wan ECL, which was a paired down, and I was
Okay.
like, I mean, Obi-Wan ECL is like, it's kind of like, I mean, no disrespect to Obi-Wan ECL, but it's kind of just a buy. Like, I don't know if that one's
like, what are they doing there to you?
right. Like, I guess maybe they could like ramp and then like ECL Ayla at Han, but like you have so many ways of making sure that you don't get punished by that, And like it's a little annoying. Like they drop village protectors, and it's like, okay, you'd sit there swinging at those for a couple turns, but it's kind of just like delaying the inevitable at that point.
Sure.
So this jetpack in my list I added like the morning before. I was like, all right, I'm gonna swap one crafty out for a jetpack and we'll see how it goes. And I was excited because I finally had a point where I was gonna use it. I like put the jetpack out on my DJ, and I'm like, okay, he's gonna flip his Obi-Wan, and then I'm gonna surprise strike into it and kill it and not take any damage. And then he like whips out a 3-cost force throw out of nowhere. And I was gonna blaster my jetpack DJ into his Obi-Wan. But I still had the blaster in my hand because I was gonna haunt it down. So then
Sure.
I'm like, all right. So I discarded it, and he got the force throw my shield away. So, but still got there in the end. So that was I won that one in 2, and then going into round 3. Round 3 was against Iden double blue, and that
Okay.
one, like, Han into hard control is, I
He
mean,
has a great time.
Yep.
yeah, that's another one where it's just like you would almost have to be trying to lose. Like, I mean, the biggest threat is usually like Bosk double claiming a death mark, and
Sure.
with Iden, like, it's not Bosk. They're not double claiming a death mark, and like the healing is just so inconsequential. Like 4/4 body flips, and it's like, okay, like whatever, that's fine. Um, so I got there into just cunning discard and like bouncing my own Bodhi to just loop more discard. Um, I think he played a Snoke at one point, and I like instantly bouncered it. Like, just nothing he could do would really stick. So got
Nice.
there into, and then I played Kira round 4, 30 health, not ECL,
Okay.
and that one is, I honestly, like, I haven't played enough Kira to really know how. I mean, on the Han side or the Kira side, to really know how they play into Han correctly, but I think they're supposed to flip before the Han flip and
Sure.
try to run Kira into a 3/5, so then she lives at 7/1, and then they have that for the Han flip.
Sure.
But she didn't do that, and basically, like, I was able to flip Han, and then Kira flipped, and then I just run Han into Kira, and then drop your 7 or whatever, DJ or Han unit. But the biggest thing is just keeping them off of Vader with Kira unit or Spark.
Sure.
So, like, I know there was one point in the second game where I sparked and I saw a Vader and a Palps return, and then
Oof.
I had I took one of them, and then I had the cunning for the discard on the other one, so discard and pump. But so got that one in 2 also. And then I think it was you and I the next match, right?
What would that would have been
Oh,
round 5?
was
We
that
were in
was it?
round. We
We
were
were in round
round
6.
6. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was the other Sabine I played, and he also got top 8. I think his name was Corwin.
Yeah. He had the KTOD shirt on.
Yep. So him and I played, and I mean, they were both, like, I think our first game I drew 2 Cunnings, and I played a Falcon turn 1, and then
Yeah. That's it.
I
That's
think, or oh no, yeah, I ended up just like the first 2 turns or 3 turns of the game, I like swung the Falcon, and then I think I played Cunning the next 2 and like bounced his play and just pumped my Falcon because I know there's no way he can punish it with Sabine if it's full health, So, and then our second game I don't think was close either, but so won that one in 2, and then you and I played round 6.
Yeah. We were round 6. Yeah.
Yep. And our games were probably the closest I had in Swiss. Like, both of our games were, one action. Like, what I think was it the first one I won with the Han swinging in with Surprise Strike?
Yep. Yeah. The first one was I heroic sack to K2 to 10 with fighters.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
down to 3 left on base, and I was exactly at 9 on base. So
Yep.
you had
And it was
the strike
just,
on Big Han. So it was just like,
yeah, the
yeah,
K2
yeah.
for 10 is just insane. There's so much damage out of nowhere. But yeah, those, and then our second game was down to 1 action too. Like, and I think the
Yeah.
second one was 1 action, and you missed your turn 1 too, which was crazy.
Yeah, that was the one where I had to burn ECL on a fighters for freedom to kill a
Yep.
crafty.
Yep.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah.
You got to do it. Yeah, no, it was like, I mean, it caught you up on board for sure. And then round 7 was Palp Yellow, and I got him, like, really. Our first game was quick. I kind of just rolled him the first game. Like, I think he ended up flipping Palp, and to like not take anything, it was just to have a body or something, and he was kind of dead that turn. But he might not have even flipped Palp. I don't know. I don't remember the first one. It was pretty fast. But I just remember like looking down, and I had like 5 guys on board, and he didn't really have anything.
Really good.
I was like, all right.
Works for me.
But game 2, Game 2 was a lot. It was a lot grindier. Game 2 and 3 were a lot longer. He put a blaster on Poggle at some point in the second game, and like I think it like killed my Bodhi or something, and like lived at 1. And yeah, that Poggle is just a thing. If you don't kill it right away, it's just gonna sit out there and get him like infinite value. So
Yeah.
and I don't think I did. It just kind of sat out there, and I don't really remember. The Palp games are kind of a blur, honestly. But he got me in game 2, and then we went to game 3, and I remember he dropped He dropped 2 of those Kintan to Intimidator, the
Yeah,
1/4 where
sauce
it's
guy.
yeah, it swings at a guy and taps it down. I was like, okay, I'm like 2 of those. So I ended up like blastering in my slaves on turn 2 to kill 1. And then I think he played the ping ship, the P3, the P30, pinged my slaves, and then like, I think he swung the other one at it, and then ended up like sacking the ship to Palp the next turn to kill the blasted up slaves. So kind of we went into like turn 3 or 4 with the board mostly clear, and that one was it was a long one. Like he ended up flipping Palp. And then I think he blasted his Palp to kill a Han later on, and I kept him off of taking anything too big. Like I think he ended up taking attack or something, and then I just like bouncered it, something like that. But I do remember he like tapped my Han leader down twice with no good to me dead. So like 4 turns, he just sat out there doing nothing.
Just stayed on 6.
Yeah. And then at some point, once the Han finally untapped, I put that jetpack on him, the 1-of, and I was able to run jetpacked Han into Palp with a blaster when the Palp had like 6 damage on him. So
Nice.
I was able to get, that was like the first time in the day where I'm like, okay, this jetpack like really came through for me. So then I had the 6/6 Han out there, but yeah, eventually I got there in the end. It was close though. Like we were down to like 2 minutes on the clock, and like we were both locked into the cut. So it was it was for funsies at the end of the day, But so then yeah, so Swiss I dropped
just one
game.
The Palp dude.
Yep. And then so cut. We went to I think it was Corwin. It was the guy I played in Swiss round 5. So he was top 8th seed. So him and I played again, and those two weren't really close again. I think he got I played a 3/5 on turn 1, and I think he fleet lieutenanted his turn 1 into mine, and then I got the Falcon down, and it was. I don't know, like I played Sabine 5 times that day. They all kind of run together. But I remember yours and mine because they were like within 1 action. But he got me. Or no, I got him in 2. And then top 4 was his buddy. There was like 3 of those guys from Wisconsin. His buddy Carl.
Yeah.
So him and I played, and I think he got me game 2, but I do remember game 1 I got him, and game 2 I remember I cured him going into his record turn, because I'm like okay, I just need to not get record here. So this was on the 5 resource turn, and I see a Poe, and I'm like, okay, I can name this Poe, but I'm like, I really can't get record, and I'm like, all right, I'll just name the Poe. So I named the Poe. I'm like, surely he won't rip a wrecker off the top.
Draw the record.
And then he draws the wrecker, and so I lost that one. And I think if I name the wrecker there, I don't know if I lose that one if I name the wrecker. So that was the big what if of that one. But I got him in game 3, and then the finals was against Victor, who I think
was also on Sabine.
He was also on Sabine, yeah. So Sabine each round in the cut.
Ran the Sabine gauntlet to win.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And our first game was right down to it. I think he had me at 26 when I won. But but I killed his. I think I killed his turn one with my slaves, which is kind of the the big thing in like the Sabine match. You Han down for your 3. Usually you play your Falcon or your 3/5 on turn 1, and then the like usually you're untapping and killing their turn 1 to live with your guy at 2. So I remember I did that, and he had the main board daring raids. So game 1 caught me a little off guard when I killed his marine or whatever on, I think it was a marine with my slaves on turn 1, and then he daring raided to kill the slaves, and I'm like, okay, that's pretty solid. And then he had an A-wing also. So
Okay.
I dropped my other, I think I had another 3/5, like a DJ or something like that. But taking out my first turn play, it evened out the momentum a lot to where our game ended up being like right down to it. But I did get him in the end, and then game 2 was, I think he ended up hitting me with 2 scanning officers, maybe. Not
Okay.
maybe he did. I know there was 1 for sure, but game 2 I don't think was as close. But yeah. So yeah, 10-0, dropped 2 games.
Nice.
Worked I played a lot of Sabine, which is kind of what you want to see as Han Yellow.
That's
So
on, yeah.
the matchups were pretty solid once I got past like the Cad Bane game 1. They were all pretty favorable. So, and then Palp can kind of go either way, which is
Yeah, man, that Palp deck is weird. Like,
it
it
was
was
yeah
just like
it
you cannot predict what they're gonna do by any means. It is
no.
just so hard.
And he was on no Vaders and 1 barrage too, which is just crazy to me. When I saw his deck afterwards, I'm like, no way, dude. Because I
Yeah.
remember in our game 3, I'm like, okay, I'm like the only thing, like there was one point where I'm like, a barrage really gets me here. So I bodied him, and he didn't have a barrage. And I know for sure at some point I like saw a maul in his hand and named Vader with my Kira, just because I didn't want to get Vadered.
Sure.
He
I don't have one.
Yeah, and then we were like wrapping up the 3rd game, and I'm like, dude, I didn't see any barrages any of those games. I'm like, that's crazy. But yeah, it was a long day at the end, but I was pretty tired. But the nice part about playing all those Sabine games is they're usually over. It's kind of just a race.
Yeah.
They're over in 25 minutes or whatever.
So yeah, you got plenty of breaks throughout the day. You can rest, if you're rested,
exactly.
Get ready for the next round.
Yep.
Yeah, well, heck of a run. Great performance, obviously.
Yeah, no, thanks.
Yeah.
So taking a look at the list here, I know you said kind of the innovation the night before was just the 1 jetpack.
Yeah, I threw it in instead of the crafty. I was like, why not? We'll see how it is, because I've seen a couple of them with jetpack. I'm like, we'll try it out.
Sure. Was there anything that you just felt was like, other than the obvious stuff, we're talking Cunning is obviously good, DJ Tech's great. Is there a kind of like card that you felt stood out throughout the day much more than it kind of gets represented for?
I mean, not really. I did one thing I did do is when so me and Joey were at that Iowa PQ that he won 2 weekends ago, right?
Yeah.
We played the mirror, and I had a little more of the mirror kind of on my mind also because of that, and he beat me in Swiss and knocked me out in like round 5 or whatever. But I did go up to 3 blasters. I was only on 2 for a while, and I will admit that having the 3 blasters in there was nice. Like, it felt like pretty much anywhere, any like time that I needed one, like there was, I untapped against Sabine once and just blastered in twice. Like, having just that much burst damage in your row, like just the consistency of it is really nice. So the 3 blasters was a change that I really liked. Zori has been kind of newer over the last couple weeks, but she's kind of always pulling a lot more weight than you would think she does initially when you just look at it and you're like, oh, like it's pretty worthless ability, but like she smuggles for 6, so she's kind of a good backup play on your Han turn, and the 7 health really sticks around against something like a Cad Bane or
Sure.
Quinlan. But yeah, I don't know. The Kira is also another one where I'll see like some lists with Kira, but or with Kira at 2. But I mean, I like her at 3 because she can just win games for you too. But,
Sure.
and then the Camel Guards, not all the decks have those in the main, but I mean, the 2 in the main is obviously good into Sabine, it's good into Django, it's good in the mirror, so I'm a big fan of those. Like, you can always just board them out if they're not relevant.
Sure. Yeah, the Gam Guards, I think that card's great. Like, ironically, just like super good in Han.
Yep. 100%.
Popped up. Is there anything that you just felt like this card did nothing for me today? Like, I maybe don't need this, or any tweaks you think, or maybe something in the board that you think would change up?
I think not really. I don't like. I mean, Plo is he's kind of a lot worse than he would seem in this deck. Like, I think I sideboarded Plo Koon in every Sabine game and never played him once. I think the other thing too, and that's kind of what I was trying throughout the day, is normally I'll bring in for Sabine the Bamboozles, the Camel Guards, and then the gunship, that 3/4 ambush.
Yep.
But I was trying something different today. I was bringing the Plos in instead of the gunships, because I figure like they already are kind of like, they don't really want to go space since you have the Falcon. So
yeah,
like the gunship almost seems like overkill. Whereas at least Plo, you can like ramp up and kill the Sabine on flip if you need. But yeah, I never played Plo once. I never played Django, so I don't think I boarded that gunship in at all. And that's kind of like, now I'm like, do I even want to play that still? Because your Django matchup is good anyway. Like,
right. Yeah, you're good there. Yeah, actually, that was my day with Sabine too. I was like, I played no Django's. Bright Hope felt awful all day because it's just like there for Django.
Big fall
like,
off.
it never came out on the board.
Honestly, well, and there just didn't seem like there was a lot of them there. Like,
I don't think so. Like I think
looking
I saw
around.
one.
Mm-hmm. So those were, I guess, as far as like underperformers, probably like gunship and then Plo. Like, but you kind of have to have the Plos for the mirror, especially. And I do think I mean, you could draw it on the right turn against Sabine and have it be worth. But the other thing I did kind of last minute was moving the 3rd Spark to the board and going down to just 2 in the main, and that kind of worked out. Like, I didn't feel like 2 in the main was bad. 2 feels fine in the main, so
Felt okay.
Yeah.
I know Han, every week the community's like, all right, what's the new Han technology? What are we doing to innovate this even more? We probably don't need to. I know Jetpack, like you said, has been a topic of that recently. Is that one where you're like, maybe I'll try 2, or I know like it seems to be either crafties or jetpacks. Like the crafties either just have been coming out for jetpacks, or with like the downfall of Django for some reason, is it something where you're like, I don't feel like I need L3N crafty?
I still really like them into Cad and Quinlan, so I don't think I would go below 5 here. The 3rd one, I was kind of like, I'm like, why not? Because he's kind of always a resource if you're not drawing him like on turn 1 in those specific matchups.
Yeah,
I guess it's decent into control too, because your turn 1's going to get powered or whatever. So like just against that Iden, I'd played a crafty on each turn 1 because he got powered once and then make an opening to the next one. So
sure.
But no, I don't think I'd go up to 3 or even 2. I don't know. Like it had its moments for sure, and maybe I wasn't like, I don't know, putting enough weight on it, but it's like, I mean, I feel like you don't want to run into a situation where you just don't have enough units,
Yeah, because it's kind of just like another pump card. So it's
Right,
like
exactly.
you already got strike, cunning,
Mhm.
gun. So
Yep.
it's like the
It
other
did.
way.
I think it did win me. I forgot about this. It did win me one of the games in the finals against Sabine. When
Oh,
he, I
okay.
think it was that first game. He got me to when he got me to 26 and had me dead on the untap. I had him just 25 exactly with the jetpack pump. So I mean, like a
Okay.
blaster, or a surprise strike would have got me there too, but didn't have any blasters there. But I did have the jetpack that I smuggled out for 4, and that won me the game. So
Okay. Sweet. So it does that. The one of is fine. It just seems to
yeah,
come into
I
play when it seems
yeah
like it.
like, and it's kind of a unique effect if you're trying to like trade on board and want a shield. So I did like the one of for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, it is a smuggle, so it's like another
Mhm.
smuggle pump, which is nice
Oh
to
yeah,
have
you
on the
just
row.
resource it, and it's like, all right, have it
Yeah.
later if you need.
Um, I know too, Han, there's two kind of specific lists. There's the good stuff list, which is kind of
Mhm.
this. You're playing all I call it like the balance list. It's just playing all the normal
Yep.
stuff. And then there's the rebel package. Have you experienced anything with the rebel package or have
I
any opinions on
No,
that?
I haven't played with it at all. Like, I mean, wing leadering onto, like a turn one Bodhi definitely seems appealing. But I think I mean, and like the 5 health with the slaves over the Ezra. And do they play the slaves in the Rebel one? I can't remember.
I don't know. I don't think so because they play Ezra Rogue Operative. I think
Yeah,
the slaves
I don't
come
know,
out for that.
the 5 health is just
So
it's
important.
so
Hmm.
it's yeah, it's hard for me to want, a 4 health over a 5. And then the like wing leader can get punished, I think, harder than just, playing another guy can. So, like, I can definitely see the appeal. And I know it is kind of meta dependent. Like the good stuff is kind of better into Tarkhan decks,
Sure.
whereas the rebels are, have a little bit more into everything else. So I think it kind of depends on what your meta is. But like, I mean, I figured there'd be a lot of Tarkhan, and there was a lot of, Cad Tarkhan and Quinlan Tarkhan there on Saturday. So I
Yep.
was and then again, I just don't have the reps on the Rebel one to feel comfortable making the last minute switch.
Sure. Sure. So speaking of Tarkentown boys, is I know everyone asks like, oh well, what's the plan into the CAD, into the
Mhm.
Quinlan?
Sure.
Are you fine with just passing claiming turn one and just
Oh
going
yeah,
turn two?
100%. I think the something I wasn't doing for a while, but I think is a good play is just passing to them and um well yeah, like you said, you just you want to, I mean, having a initiative is ideal, and then you just pass. If they claim, like, that's fine. But and then they play their turn one, and for a while I was going into a 3/5 or a Falcon, but I think
Yep.
just playing a crafty there is better, honestly.
Sure.
um that's what I did against the CAD is, turn one, I think I craftied both games, and I think he got me like 6 damage on base both games, just, sitting out there.
Okay.
um the second game for sure, he might not have the first game, but yeah, that because, then they play their Bazine or whatever on turn one, and they don't get that ping, and just having that early momentum without them having being able to Tarkin down your turn one or your turn two right away is pretty huge.
Makes
And then
sense.
yeah, like that second one into the second game into CAD, he passed, and I'm like, okay, I'll claim, like, that's fine,
Claim it up. Yeah.
because
Hmm.
your biggest thing, like, they have so many plays that can like favorably trade into yours, that if they just don't want to do anything, like, it's kind of like, yes, you don't get to progress your board, but usually like their response to you laying a unit is going to kill your unit in, like, like a Forlom, for example. So it's gonna kill yours and then leave them with one that you're gonna have to deal with.
Sure.
So, and like Han flips earlier than CAD, and they always run the risk of you just flipping into a DJ, And then if their board's empty, it's like, okay, they have no way to deal with that really.
Sure. And then the other kind of anti-Han discussion right now is those scanning officers. Curious to hear your opinion on it from
I think
the perspective of the Han player, because
right.
my opinion of the person who would be using it, at least in Sabine, is like it's pretty overhyped right now.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. I think like if you get the play and you play it on turn 1 and break their turn 1, it's like it can be good, but it also just might not be. Like if they're playing around it, or if they just randomly didn't draw any smuggle cards, I think you're kind of rolling the die. It's like it's kind of a high risk, high reward thing, but you're also like hedging on them possibly being bad and playing into it. And I think it's almost better to play it on the Han turn, to get them off of a 7. And I guess it's kind of different in Sabine, because they don't really like going into the Han turn against Sabine. I'm not always really even like trying to play a 7, so it feels almost less impactful there than it would in like with Palp playing scanning officer into Han, because there you usually are trying to go for the 7. You're trying to DJ or whatnot, whereas with Sabine you're not really like, you're fine almost playing like a a Cunning and a Falcon, or Cunning and a whatever else on that turn. So
sure. Yeah, it makes sense in some decks. Like, I think it's fine in Palp just because it's also an official. So it's just like, it has this added bonus. It turns on the Emp guard, so that's good.
Yep.
But other than that, like, especially for an aggro deck, I don't know. It seems like some people are either totally for it right now, or you're just like completely off it. Like, especially as Sabine, I don't want to waste a turn to play a 2/3 that ends up doing nothing. If
I think the in the finals, when I got hit with the daring raid, I think that's a lot more. That felt a lot more. Yes, exactly, than the scanning officer, because that thing comes down and like, I know it's not getting fleet lieutenant in. I know it's not getting wing leader the next turn. Like, it's just kind of a 2/3 that's going to sit there. Can't get rebel assaulted. Like, red 3 doesn't pump it. Like, it is kind of just it's like a little out of place in the Sabine deck. And like you said, you're paying 2 for a 2/3 that maybe it gets you value, but you're also kind of hedging on the Han player, like making a mistake and playing into it.
Right.
And now, and maybe it's you have that kind of surprise. I have a scanning officer, but now that this more Sabines are on it and people kind of know to play around it, because if I play into Palp, like, I know they're probably on scanning officer, and like you have to play that game, the whole game, making sure you don't get blown out by it. But and now that Sabine post board, people kind of have that same. You're almost kind of thinking that same way, waiting for them to play it, or knowing that it's a possibility. But and do you get some value by them having to play around it? Sure, but I think the daring raid felt a lot more impactful as far as like Sabine into Han tech. Like going into your turn 2, daring raiding to kill their turn 1, and then dropping like an A-wing or a Marine. I think that's probably your best bubble to play to Han. To Han killing your turn 1.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I know, Alex, you were testing it the other night when we were playing some games in Krennic, which probably makes more sense than like a Sabine or something. I can't remember if you hit some good stuff with it.
I was playing against one of our friends, and I think it's like decks like that, like Kira or Palpatine or Krennic, would probably have a better line into it, but it is certainly a timing conversation. It's certainly about high strategic
100%.
Highly strategic, like more computing power than my brain has most days. But I think the biggest values I ever probably got were on turn 2 or turn 3. I think in those one, because you're probably targeting most of the resources, because later on, you play Scanning Officer, and the wonderful new rules allow that player to just pick up their resources, shuffle them however they want, and put them back down.
Yep.
And they can, I mean, you're smiling for that, Cody, and I don't blame you.
Yep.
But, even if they, and it's a mind game after that, so like,
Right.
you can just hedge your bets and be like, well, I'm not going to lose resources over this, and I can put any exhausted resources as my smuggle ones. So
Mhm.
you can mind game like that to kind of pull those out of the row, which I had some value later on, but it really is just like it's a gamble on both sides. As like the Han player is like, do I feel comfortable putting down a smuggle card in the row early? And sometimes, like, I don't know how the draws can feel, but sometimes that might just be your only choice in terms of what's in your
Oh yeah,
hand.
there is definitely games where you just don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm. So it is just that, like, it's that stat. It's just that probability lineup. I
Yeah.
would probably.
Otherwise, you have to there. Like if you don't, it's kind of like you either have to sometimes, or you like sabotage your own game
Mm-hmm.
plan anyway, playing around it. So it's kind of that give and take of like how much do you want to bet that they do have it.
Yeah, I think there was. I think there was one game where the Han player had the initiative, and they spun a resource down, and then I played the Scanning Officer turn one and got two resources. Like that obviously feels
Yep.
great. That's the payoff you
Oh,
want to
yeah.
see. But like you were saying, I think even Sabine was playing around with it, and a lot of people are on it. So I think it's highly anticipated.
Mhm.
Um, I think if I were to bring something like Krennic to another one, I would, you know, I'd probably honestly mainboard it just to like see if I can snag that game one in some capacities. There's a decent amount of other decks that are playing the blaster or
Oh yeah.
or tech or something else. So
Sure.
you can get lucky there, but
Mhm.
again, for me, it's like, well, I'm playing Yularen, so if I got, I'm still gonna heal one, or it's, for Krennic, it's like I can, I can put one on the Pershing, and it's from Pershing, and it's a 3. So there's other
Yep.
value in like control and mid ranges, but I would agree that like probably doesn't fit in the aggro matchup for Sabine.
Yeah,
Sure.
having the additional upside is huge for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point too. It's like it's not just good in Han, right? There is quite a few decks playing
Mm-hmm.
smuggled
Hmm.
cards. Um, I know in one of Max's games, he was across from a Kira ECL, and the dude like opened up Scanning Officer on him, and the guy like asked Max, he's like, "Do you want to shuffle your resources around?" He's like, "I'll just show you. It's two Ezras." It's fine. Like, I'm good
Yep.
with that being played. So it's probably not as like impactful when it's good
I mean,
as it is against Han, but it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, definitely probably more useful in other stuff.
yeah. I mean, if I were a smart player, I'd write down those resources I'm revealing. But
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think this the struggle. I think is just what people are trying to figure out what to sideboard in, in
Yeah.
these matches, because you're seeing chokes, you're seeing takedowns, because those 5 health units are just
Yep.
brutal.
Sweet. Well, I think that's all we got for you today, Cody, on the Han run through. What do you got on the rest of the PQ season? Any more coming up here?
Yeah, I mean we have that other one in Minnesota and on what, the 8th, I think. Like
Yep.
Yep.
I'll be there. So I was planning on going to it anyway. We'll see if I bring Han or not. I'm working on finding something else, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Sure. At least you don't gotta worry. You already got a couple.
Right. Right.
You just gotta like boost us to the top. Get us.
Yeah, exactly,
Get to
right?
bust out the pet deck.
Yo,
Yeah.
wow, that's the problem is I don't have any of those.
Mono red Vaders definitely.
Yeah, there you go. Twice the pride, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet. Well, if Alex, if you don't got any more questions, I think I'm good here on
That's all
my
I got.
side. and feel free to go take a watch at Cody in the Take the Initiative League online. Made it to the finals in that again, so that's exciting too. Has that game coming up. Other than that, if you guys have any questions, comments, feel free to throw them down there. Like the video, I think we'll throw Cody's deck list. It's probably out there in the world, of course, already, but we'll throw it down in the description. And other than that, hope everyone has a good rest of the PQ season here. Other than that, Clone Force 23. Peace out.
Grand Army of the Republic when deployed. Galactic warfare you cannot avoid. Go ahead, be a battle droid. Face off against my clone troopers and get destroyed. Space tech, spaceports, TCG, card sports, of course. Till my voice goes hoarse. Welcome, wrecking, decking with the strategy, the energy. It's Clone Force 23.